If you were given the opportunity to take 200K or press a button with a chance of 15 to get 5 million, what would you pick and why? Story 1. The 200K would absolutely get my shoot back on track right now with some money left to spare. So I'll take the conservative route on this one and take that. Story 2. If it's just a one-time offer, I'm taking the 200K for sure. If I get to press it once and also 3-4 of my friends get a chance also, we should all try for the 5 mil. Story 3. There's an 80 chance that you'll spend the rest of your life wishing you'd just taken the 200K. I'm taking the 200K. Story 4. 15 chance of 5M is worth 1M. I am selling the button press to the highest bidder for probably at least 800K. Story 5. Tough choice, but I think I'm going for the 5 million. 200K isn't life-changing money. Don't get me wrong, it would be great, but I'm not in a place where that amount of money would change my day-to-day. I'd stash it away and forget about it for a while. 5 million, on the other hand, would push me into my next phase of life and early retirement. I'd be making some investments, cutting back on working, and living off of the combination of reduced income and interest. Story 6. 200K isn't a life-changing amount for me, so it would be about return. If you take 200K and invest it, and average 7 annual return, it turns to 1,000 after about 24 years, the value of the bet option. If you are retiring at that point, you can expect about 70,000 annual income from the safe option. If you take the risk, it is worth about 1,000. It is only 1 in 5 odds, but if it hits, you can retire immediately. You can earn an income of 350,000 a year on that same 7 annual return. You could buy a nice home with cash and live out your days doing whatever you want, so long as you limit yourself to the annual return on your investments. Story 7. I'd grab the 200K, drop half into a broad index fund, clear any debt with the rest, and enjoy the breathing room that comes from real financial slack. Freedom today beats maybe tomorrow. Story 8. 80 chance of being depressed doesn't seem worth it to me. If I was already rich, I'd gamble on the 5 mil since it's mathematically the better choice. Story 9. 15. The expected value is 1M, which is more than 200K. Also, I'm in a position where an extra 200K wouldn't move the needle all that much, but 5M would be a big change. Story 10. 5M in a heartbeat. That's actual life-changing money for my family and then my kids. I could set them up to have support and go off and do whatever they wanted to for a career. I could retire now and enjoy my family and traveling the world. 200K isn't even 1 year of combined family income. Story 11. 15 chance 200K is not life-changing money. And also that chance to press the button is worth $1 million. 5x value. Story 12. Press the button, 200K. While a great amount of money wouldn't forever alter the course of my life, and pressing the button has a much higher expected value. With 5M, you could pay 1 man for a nice house and invest the rest. A standard 4 rule means you could pay yourself 160K a year from selling investments, and at least in the US, long-term capital gains are taxed at a lower rate than income, so you'd have more left over than someone making a 160K a year salary. This would allow one to retire, though not lavishly. For someone struggling to make ends meet, though, the 200K could be the better option, since it would guarantee a better life. Now, if you offered me 10 millers a 20 chance of 250 millers, I'd probably take the 10 millers. Lower expected value, but almost guaranteed to never have to work again. Story 13. I'd take the 200K. It would put me in a financially stable enough situation to have a baby with my wife without any worries. Wouldn't risk that given the opportunity. Story 14. 200K would easily solve my money troubles and put me a long way towards actually being able to retire instead of my current plan of working until I'm dead. Easy pick. Story 15. I'm definitely taking the 200 grand. 5 million is obviously much better, but I'm not guaranteed 5 million. I'm guaranteed 200 grand, which is 200 grand more than I have right now. Story 16. Statistically, the 15 at 5 million is better. Statistically. But humans aren't statistic machines, and 200K would solve all my financial problems and give me some nice saving. So, to me personally, it's not worth rolling the dice. But I would fault no one for taking the 15 chance to never work again. Story 17. The topic of the question is the diminishing marginal utility of money, and that's different for each person's situation. Question for those who say, I'll take the 200K, because otherwise I'll probably go home empty-handed. Would you take 200K no matter what the winnings for gambling are? What about 10 million instead of 5 million? Or 100 million? Or 1 billion? For what amount would you rather gamble? And a question to those who press the button because expected value is 1 million and 1,200,000. Would you also gamble when it's 200 million safe compared to 5 billion in a 1.5 chance? Expected value is 1 billion and 1,200,000,000. I would gamble in the original question, but I wouldn't gamble the 200 million. To me, 200 million and 5 billion are both infinite money. So, my point of taking the safe money would be somewhere in between, but I have no idea where. Story 18. 200K. I know how I could use that to set myself up. 80 chance of nothing leaves me hustling where I am still. Story 19. Big brain time. The value of 20 odds for 5M is 1M, whereas the guaranteed 200K is worth 200K. I am finding an investor to give me 250K for a 20 chance to 10x their money. If I win the 5M, the investor and I get 2.5 each. If I lose, the investor lost his table bet of 250K. I either get 2.75M or 250K. Very few gambles give the player 20 odds of 10xing their bet. Story 20. Assuming USD 200K, that would pay off the house and leave plenty to put away in savings. Assuming ZAR, push the button. Our 200K would be nice, but not really make a dent in the house loan. Our 5 million would be similar to the 200K above. Story 21. 200K would erase all of our credit card debt, our car loans, and the student loans for both my wife and I, and we'd still have enough left over to buy something really nice. We'd only have our mortgage left over after that. I'd say that's a winner. Story 22. 200K is 20K a year in the market long term, not inflation adjusted. 20 years to retirement for me, so that's around 1.3 when I retire, a salary of around 40-50K. Not much, but shoot, it might be the difference between working and not working if I have other retirement savings. Story 23. Definitely the 5M. I have already got 200K. It did very little for me. I still have to work. I assume the other one would be just as useless. Story 24. 200K. It wouldn't change my life, but it would immediately allow me enough of a net to take more risks than I have been, and I think that would make me far happier than I am. The prize isn't the money, it's the opportunities 200K would allow me to act on. Story 25. Yeah, hell no. At this point, I've lived long enough to know how far my luck stretches, even with 50-150 odds. Just doesn't. It's 200K, baby. Story 26. 5,001,000. Expected value of 1,200,000 wouldn't change anything in my life at the moment. Story 27. I'd take the 200,000 easy. There is no scenario where I regret taking the 200,000, and a big chance I'd be regretting making the wrong decision. And 200,000 is not a wrong decision. With time, you can make that 200,000 into 5 million. Maybe. Story 28. Oh, yeah, I'm probably getting the 200,000. Risk is good and all, but no risk compared to 5 times the risk? That's no question. Story 29. 200,000. I'll never know if I would have got the 5 mil, but I would be painfully aware if I went for it and ended up with 0. 200,000 is life-changing enough, and the regret of losing out entirely would fester in my brain every time I count pennies out for groceries. Story 30. I would take the 200,000. I have been making small investments for a couple years as I don't have enough money to make big ones. I have tripled my invested money during that time. I could have gone better, but unfortunately, I did not have the money to invest in some clear opportunities I saw, and ended up being extremely profitable. In short, 200,000 would totally change my life, and I am pretty sure I would be able to multiply it in a few years. I would not have to take the risk to just go with nothing. Story 31. Dollars or my currency. 'Cause 200,000 dollars sets me up for life. My currency, 7 or 8 months of work. I'd take the gamble. Story 32. Reframe it. Choice is not 200,000 versus 5 million. It's 200,000 versus 80 chance of nothing. Makes it pretty easy. Story 33. 200,000, that's enough to pay off all my loans, and if I didn't have to pay those off every month, my finances would be pretty comfortable. Story 34. Take the 200,000, the reason being it's guaranteed, whereas the 5 million isn't, so you could end up with 0. Not worth the risk. Story 35. Well, I only need about 100,000 to live the rest of my life in comfort, so I'd take the 200,000 sure thing. Story 36. Take the money. No question. A guaranteed 200,000 is more than worth a 45 chance of walking away with nothing. Story 37. People saying that the expected value of the gamble, 5 million x 15 chance, is right, except that expected value as a concept is only useful over multiple attempts. Large number theory only works on large numbers of samples. On a single roll, your EV is not really 1M. If you are offered this chance 10 times and you roll 10 times, then divide the value by 10, then yeah, you'd probably have a 10 million bucks. If you roll the dice once, well, it's a 20 chance of getting 5M, not 100 chance of having 1M. Story 38. This one's actually close. 200 might move retirement up a few years, which is significant, but not life-changing. But 5 million is actually life-changing. Story 39. 200,000 in the hand is better than 5 mil in a bush, or something like that. 200,000 would be life-changing for me. It would be enough to clear all my short-term debt and leave me with a small, very manageable mortgage. With the difference the 200,000 would make, there's no way I'd gamble it for a 45 chance of 0. Story 40. 200,000 easily. It's large enough to make life comfortable, while 5 million is way too low to risk it on. Story 41. The second option. I'm financially stable so I can live with nothing, and that one statistically yields better results. Story 42. 200,000 because it's guaranteed. I used to be an absolute gambling degenerate, and I'm past that still recovering. I know statistically I will probably lose. Like bro, it's a 100 chance to get 200,000 is a 20 chance to get 5 mil. It's probably more rewarding to invest that or put a huge down payment on a nice house, so on and so forth. Story 43. I'd take the sure 200K and walk. I have no need to gamble anything more than, say, 20 at a shot once a year or so. Story 44. 200K guaranteed or 20 chance for 5 million. 200K is guaranteed to change my life. A chance at 5 million is an 80 chance that I get nothing. Pretty easy call. Story 45. Oh, take the guaranteed 200K over the long shot of 1M easily. I can do a lot of good with the smaller money, and I'd never forgive myself if I got greedy and came up empty-handed. Story 46. The correct play mathematically is to take the 15 chance at 5 mil. That being said, fudge student loans, I'd smash that 200K. Story 47. 200,000 would pay off my mortgage, and I'm still 20 years from retirement. Far bigger deal than chancing 5 million. Story 48. 200K. It's more than enough to turn my life around from kinda tight to fairly comfortable. It would suit me just fine. Story 49. On the one hand, I'm insanely lucky, so that part of me says push the button. On the other hand, I know that my luck evaporates once money's involved, so for me that 1 in 5 chance may as well be 1 in 5,000,000. Part of me would still want to push the button because 5 mil would be far more, but another part would want to take the 200K because it'd still be life-changing, and I highly doubt I'd win the 5 mil. They could probably even give me 5 presses of the button, and I'd still lose every time with how my luck goes when money's involved. In the end, I'd probably flip a coin to make my decision. Story 50. The chance at 5 million. If I have the chance at truly life-changing money, I'm taking it. If I lose, I'm not any worse off than I am now. Story 51. 200K. Put that much into my mortgage or my superannuation right now, and I'm set up for early retirement and a comfortable life. Story 52. 200K means I can help my partner with her recovery, and having 45 of a chance of not doing something is a no-go. Story 53. With 200K, I could pay off all my debt. My salary goes a lot further with no debt to pay each month. I'll take it. Story 54. 200K for sure. 50K to pay off all my debts and buy myself something nice. 100K for investing and 50K to put it on red. My investment is putting it on black. Story 55. Pool with a dozen or more people, and I'll take the 1-5 chance for the 25x return. Over a large enough group will likely average somewhere around 1 million each. Story 56. 200K and it's not even close. That would pay off all my non-mortgage debt and leave me swimming in money anyway. Not 5 million money, but life-changing nonetheless. Story 57. Press the button, because my risk aversion is not sufficiently great enough to compensate me for foregoing the difference in expected values. 800K and BM22, 200K. Story 58. 15 chance. This sounds wrong, but that's only because I make more than 200K. If it gets around 350 if switch over. Story 59. Push the button. I'm near retirement, and so 200K wouldn't hugely affect my lifestyle, unlike many here, but 5M would, and would also change my kids, as I'd give them a good chunk of it. But I understand the logic of those who don't take the gamble. Story 60. I'd take the 200K and immediately hit up a financial advisor to figure out how the most efficient way to grow it. Story 61. I'd pick the button and take it with me. Infinite money. Oh, if that's not an option, I'd keep pressing the button. If that's not an option, I'd go with the 200K. Story 62. I'd pick 200K. But how about this? Press a button with a chance of 15 to lose all. 45 to get 5 million. Stupid, greedy me would press that button. Story 63. To me, it is a big difference if the situation were I give you 200k, and then you can spend the 200k for a chance to win 5M. That feels far less appealing than just accepting the 5M chance from the start, even though it's effectively the same thing. I would not agree to spend 200k of my own money on a 20 chance of 5M, so I should just take the guaranteed money in this hypothetical. Weird that's it's so different in my mind. I imagine there is probably some kind of psychological concept for that. Story 64. 200k would really make a huge difference in my quality of life right now, so I would take the 200k and dream about the what might have been, just like I dream about what it would be like to be debt-free now. Story 65. I will be pedantic and point out it doesn't say I have to only press it once, and there is not a penalty to pressing it multiple times. So in that case, I will hit the button as often as I need thank you. Story 66. I've seen my odds when pulling Pokemon cards LMFA, I think I'd just take the 200k as long as student finance can't take too much. And even if they did, I'd still be better off than now. Story 67. Statistically speaking, you should press the button as it's worth 5x the 200k. Realistically, most people are in such need they shouldn't risk getting nothing and should just take the 200k. Assuming no rules, I'd probably sell my button press to someone for like 300k with a clause that says if they win, I get 1.5 million. I assume somebody rich enough would be buying button presses and easily be okay paying out, or I'd outright sell my button press for 500k, 900k. If there's no market for this stuff, I'm not sure what I'd do. My gut is to press the button. I'm in a pretty good spot financially, and 5 million would set up my kids up for life. 200k is nice, and I'd start an investment fund, but that's about it. I've got 5 people in my family, so hopefully we all get a press. Story 68. Definitely taking my chances. 200k would be awesome and help a ton, but it wouldn't set me up for life or anything. Just means I can retire a year or two earlier. Whereas if I get that 5M, I'm never working when I don't want to again. Easily worth the risk of getting nothing for me. Story 69. I feel like could make a lot of stuff happen with 200k, so I'd just go with that because it's more of a sure thing for me. Story 70. I'd roll for the 5 men. 200k is a huge amount, but with my health it's unlikely I can work again, so 200k could be a couple years. 5M, on the other hand, is capital. Use 4 men as investments and 1 man for various things. Live off of the proceeds, and if I roll bad, I am not worse off than I am now. Story 71. On one hand, I'm financially stable enough to where I would probably be okay getting nothing. 200,000 would be nice, but would not radically change my life. I wouldn't stop going to work or anything. Maybe a 2-week trip in some foreign country or something like that. But that's about it. The rest would go into paying off some of the house and a large emergency fund. 5 million could probably be parlayed into early retirement. People talk about investment and they mean companies, but that's stupid. Buy property, hire management. I'll flip a coin to decide. Heads, I take the 200k. And it's heads. 200k it is. Story 72. 200k pays off all current debts, puts my kid through college, and a down payment on a small house. That's an instantly life-changing amount of money. Or I have to roll a 17 or better on a D20 die, or I get nothing. I have to live with getting nothing, and I get to explain to my family why I got nothing. Easy choice. Story 73. I'll press the button 25 times just so I at least have enough money to not worry for a long time about being broke. Story 74. 200K is maybe a couple years early retirement, but life still continues unchanged for a few decades. 5MN means my life changes today. I'll take the chance. If it fails, life stays the same. Story 75. If it's in America, then I will be taxed, and you'll probably get less than half of the 200K once the government gets their share. So better off gambling for the 5 million. Story 76. 200K is still a significant amount of money for me, but I'm sure if it wasn't, I would have taken 20 chance of 5 million. Story 77. The sure thing. That much is a good enough amount you could turn it into $1 million in a few or more years. Story 78. I mean, would you pay 200K to press the button is really the question. I probably would not. That's too much money to risk giving away for me. Story 79. Press the button. I'm good as I am now. 200K would be amazing, but nowadays where I live or would like to live, that's not even a house. If I press and lose, I'm no worse off than I am now. But a 20 chance to never have to work again, with even basic investment strategy, is still probably 1,000,000 times more likely than stumbling into a similar situation living my life as I am. Story 80. Oh, I thought 15 of the world would get 5 million, so was going to press that. Probably the 200K then. Gamblers never prosper. Story 81. Go play craps. Put table minimum on every number and tell me if you won money or lost. Give me the button, damn it. Story 82. That's a tough call. 200K would not change my life by any measurable amount. It would only speed up my retirement by a couple years, whereas 5 million is instant retirement. Story 83. 15 for 5 million, 5x, the expected return. These odds and returns are absurdly better. 200K isn't even enough to buy a shack, and while it is a lot of money, it's not life-changing for me. If you get 5 mil, buy a house for 500K 1 mil, depending on where you live. Put the rest in an investment account, and you can live off of the investment return every year for life. Even with an absolute minimal risk investment strategy and you make 5 return a year, that's already 225 here with just the principal. Story 84. 200K. Many of us are barely getting by, so I think most of us would take the 200K rather than take a chance on 5 million. Story 85. You could get to 5 million pretty quick with a 200K head start. It will take less time to get to 5 million from 200K than it would take from 0 to 200K. Story 86. Really hard decision. 200K life-changing. Could mean I retire 5 years early. But 5 million is quit my job tomorrow. 20% chance of that I might take it. Story 87. 200K in a second. Would pay off every bill apart from my mortgage and would give me a good chunk of change for savings. It's a no-brainer. Story 88. I'd take the button press and sell a contract for the 50 of the proceeds after I press it for 400K. Lots of investors would pay that for a 20 chance at a 6.2x return in a broader derivatives portfolio. Story 89. If you are in debt, have 100K or 300K above age 40, take the 200K. Otherwise, risk the 5 mile. The payoff is good, but the risk should be based on how impactful the 200K is to your wealth. If you have 1 mil, you don't need that 200K. 5 mil will change your life forever. Story 90. It's best to think about this proposition as gambling 200K for a 20 chance of getting 25.1 on your money. Story 91. Hitting the button is the obvious answer, and anyone who doesn't have a conveniently priced surgery or something to pay for, who takes the 200K is kinda dumb. Story 92. This really depends on how comfortable you already are. I'd try for the 5M because that might kind of change my life. Story 93. I'd hit the button that gives me no money but guarantees I never have to see this question asked again. Story 94. I wouldn't have to lose my house if I got 200K. I'm fine taking that sure bet over the 20 possibility of getting 5 million. Story 95. Mathematically, I know the bet is a good one, but I'm taking the 200K. It'll cover half of my kids' upcoming college costs. Story 96. 200K would be a nice boost, but I'm okay if I miss out on it. Translating it to income at about a 5 return, that's an extra 10K a year. Nice, but not a huge difference. I'll play the odds and shoot for the 5M 250K a year, thank you. Story 97. 200K. 5 million is more than I'd know what to do with. But with 200K, I'd buy a 2-acre lot, build a nice house, then live in it. Story 98. 200K is life-changing for me, but I'm surviving as it is right now. 5 million would be more than life-changing. It would mean a lot more, so I'm gambling as I'd be no worse off than I am today. Story 99. The odds are way too good to not go for the 5M. Like if you get 200K, you have a